morning, friends. Nice Saturday morning, sunshine, rained all week. Finally getting to changing my braking oil on my Hustler Raptor XL with the Kawasaki FR 691V. They have 11 hours on it. It's a little bit longer than they recommend, but stuff happens. I went ahead and put the supplied drain tube and got out an 11mm wrench and put the oil drain pan down below, routed it through so it shouldn't leak on anything. Go ahead and open the valve with a little 11mm wrench. Trying to look down to see if it's draining. Not yet. Not a lot of room. Turning it counterclockwise to loosen it or open it. Quite a bit so far, still nothing coming out. Oh, by the way, I did warm it up for 10 minutes. Once it's getting loose, so there. And I'm backing it out as far as it'll go. Seems like it doesn't have a stop that I can see, and I don't want it to come out the end, so I'm going to stop right there. Looks like it's draining out pretty good, so I'll give it some time to drain, and we'll go on to the next step afterwards. I noticed a couple mows ago that the left control lever had seemed to become loose and hard to control. When I opened up the seat cover to change the oil, I saw that the gas strut had become disconnected from the end of it. So I'll think I will dig into that and get that back together, and hopefully that solves the problem. I moved the left control lever out of park so I could move it forward as far as it would go, and I still can't get the gas strut to engage, so I'm going to go ahead and remove the rear nut and see if I can screw it in first, and then I can put it back on the rear nut. This is the bolt and nut I'm talking about. It looks like it's a lock nut with 13mm or 1/2 inch, and of course it turns from the bottom. So a 12mm wrench on the nut below, and now I can take it off. Looks like it has some kind of a clip. I might have been able to take the ball out, but for now, I'm going to just maybe see if it's not operating right. If I can pull it out, it seems pretty hard. I can't do it by hand. I think I'll put it in a vise and see if I can pull it out before I try to reassemble it. I tested the strut in the shop. I put a 1/4-20 nut on the end. Of course, that didn't work because it's either a 1/4-28 or metric probably, but I put a nut on, got a thread on, and put it in the vise and pulled it out. It's pretty stiff, but it seems to be operating correctly. From there, I'm going to go ahead and screw it back in the other fitting in the front on the control lever, and then I can stretch it out and refasten it in the back. And look at that, just like it was supposed to be. Go ahead and reassemble the nut on the back. Not really sure what keeps it from screwing out, but it's better than it was. So I'll go ahead and get the 12mm underneath. And I can tighten down this nut. And I did something while the oil was draining. Seems much better. Re-engage the parking brake. Put the little protection cap back on. Another job well done. I thought I'd go ahead and take this grass chute off also. Since it's new, for the 11 hours it's been running, I've had it zip tied up like from the factory, and it seems like I don't really need it. I would like to keep it in place, but I'd like to be able to open and close it from the operator's seat, maybe in a future project. Since I'm kind of cheap and I can't imagine a big zip tie this is very affordable, I decided to try to reuse it by putting a little screwdriver in underneath it and wedging the little catch open. There we go. Now, as long as I can find it the next time I need it, which might be the bigger challenge, I think we'll call that good. Looks like there's 2 lock nuts holding this assembly on. I have a 1/2 inch wrench, so 1/2 inch, 13 millimeters is probably what it takes. Seems to be a carriage bolt also on the back side, so I shouldn't have to need another wrench. They come off fairly easy. Looks like the spring has to go in the right notch right there, but I can figure that out. I think I'll go ahead and put the nuts back on the bolts so we don't lose them. And if I can find this, when we go to the next idea, try to make a operator openable, closable grass catcher safety chute thing. Should be ready. Maybe I'll put the zip tie with it, then I'll have it all together. Stored the chute in a place that I'm sure I'll find it, because I thought of it, but then when I'm looking for it, I probably won't find it. But there's how it looks with it off. Oil's had a long enough time to drain out. I'll check to see if there's any more drips. We'll get to closing the valve, and then we'll move on to the oil filter. It's had a good 15-20 minutes to drain out. Looks like it drips just barely. So I'm going to go ahead and close the valve. Looks like it screws pretty good, hand tight for a while. And then slip the 10 millimeter wrench on it. A little stubby straight blade screwdriver might work well for this too. Or a ratchet with a 10 millimeter wrench on it. But the first time, it's for learning, right? It looks like it's plastic, so I'm gonna be pretty careful with it. But then again, I don't want it to open up and drain all the oil out while it's running. I'm sure the warranty wouldn't cover that. Looks like it goes in. Hit the stop. Just put a little pressure on it. Go ahead and pull the drain tube off. And the question is, pull it up without getting oil everywhere. Works fine. These little cubbies on the mower work really well for storing your tools and your rags while you're working. Looks like it did a pretty good job. No mess, no fuss. Time for the oil filter. Now that the oil's drained out and the plug is back closed, so I should be safe to put more oil in after I change this. Oil filter looks easy to get to. Hopefully it's not too tight. and tight. That's good. Looks like maybe a rag underneath that before you unscrew it is the way to go, because it is draining out. There is a little chute for the oil to drain down. But by the way, I moved the pan out so I can put this drain wet oils in here into the pan so I can recycle it. There we go. Yep. Good deal. All right. Call that good for now. Oil's all wiped up from the oil filter spill. First lesson I learned during this process was put a rag down first, and then the cleanup should be a lot easier. Compare the old filter with the new filter. Looks like it's a match. Don't see much difference. Went ahead and put some clean oil on the seal and the engine, wiping off the engine boss filter. Make sure it's clean. Gonna go ahead and screw it on. Very easy. It says and tight, and then about 3/4 of a turn. Or as tight as I can get it with my hand. Oil all changed. Manual says let run about 3 minutes. Recheck it, adjust if necessary. We'll see how it goes. In conclusion of the oil change for the FR691V on the Hustler Raptor XL, everything went pretty smooth. I would say that I learned a few lessons about putting the rag down before you change the oil filter. And also I added 2 quarts plus 6 ounces, ran it for 3 minutes, let the oil settle down for a while, recheck the oil, and it's right to the full line. So that's a good number for me to remember next time. All I need to do is log it in the owner's manual and call it a day. Get to mowing later once it dries out. With the front yard all done, checked for oil leaks. Everything looks good. Pretty happy with the removal of the grass deflector, and the repair on the gas strut seemed to really help. It seems to be a lot more stable than it was. All in all, it was